Homer versus Ferguson, Trace Thomas. So, racism is deeply rooted in America, and we have had a lot of problems and a lot of issues on racism on many occasions. Like, whether it be people back in the day, selling the black people on like stage or something, and people buying them for like either the cotton fields or whatever necessity you need for them, which is obviously the wrong thing to do. And that has been deeply rooted in America for a long time. And I'm going to be talking about one of the instances of where in Louisiana where it got kind of broken a little bit and a change started happening. And racism separated people based on their skin color and treated black Americans as second class citizens. Racism denied black Americans basic rights by their fair education, job opportunities, voting, and safety. And it wasn't personal, it was just written into the law, enforced by courts, and obviously the police and the people and everyone around. So, Plessy versus Ferguson was a major Supreme Court case in 1896. This did happen in South Louisiana, where racism and segregation laws were very common amongst your everyday life in the city and the surrounding cities around all of South Louisiana. And they had the obvious stereotype of how the South had some racial problems before, and it took a while to abolish it in the South. So Homer Plessy was a guy who looked white, but he was legally black. He was like, I believe he was 1/8 black. So that meant under the law, he was looked at as a black person. And Homer, he had challenged a law requiring separate train cars for black and white passengers that bought tickets. So he bought a ticket. He bought a ticket for a train car, and he sat in a whites only train car that was meant for only whites back in the day. And when he was asked to move, he had refused to move, and he had been arrested for it. Like they arrested him, and all this was a plan by him and a group of people to challenge the segregation laws in court because they knew they were going to take it to court. His goal was to use the case to question the constitutionality of segregation. So bringing it to court, his lawyer cited that in the 13th Amendment that it abolished slavery, and the 14th Amendment it protected equal rights under the law. They argued that segregation treated black citizens as below class and lower class levels. Judge John Ferguson ruled against them. He then appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court after the ruling didn't go his way. Supreme Court ruling in 1896, the Supreme Court ruled 7-1 against Plessy. That then created the doctrine of separate but equal. This legalized segregation across the U.S. and deepened racial injustice nationwide. The impact. So segregation became widespread among schools, buses, restaurants, and even water fountains. Facilities for black Americans were used unequal, and they were also underfunded by the government. The decision to promote racism under the law for 50 years. It promoted racism under the law for 50 years. Plessy's courage inspired future civil rights activists. The Brown v. Board of Education in 1954 overturned Plessy. declared school segregation unconstitutional, and in 2020, Plessy was pardoned by Louisiana. His stand helped ignite the civil rights movement. Conclusion: Plessy versus Ferguson shows how racism was embedded in the law. Even though he lost, Plessy's bravery led to long-term change. It showed that fighting for what is right matters, even when success isn't immediate. Understanding this case helps us fight systemic racism today.